in Standard,
Oof.
especially if you played a 1-drop. So,
Those
yeah.
tricksters, that's going to end that game.
Unfortunately, it's just this phase where you're facing down like 5 or 6 power of blue shitters, and you have to stop and play a 3 mana enchantment. Your opponent's not even going to counter that. They know that you taking a turn off to do that is going to cost you the game. So I think it's maybe a card that belongs in the sideboard, but best of one, you got to go for it. So looks like that's
Absolutely.
a best of one down. Unfortunately, the mono blue deck very consistent compared to its previous incarnation. It used to be that if you took out the curious obsession, or you took out the creature that was being cast on, even if you just killed their first two 1-drops, like when they tapped out to play a creature, then you would have turns and turns and turns against that deck. But now it has many more. It's like more than doubled its number of serious threats with Terramander, and like you said, you play cards like the Warkite Marauder in it now, or the Biomancer, and you can no longer just write a couple of well-timed removal spells and punish their bad hands.
Exactly. And it's a deck that it rewards knowing how to actually play the deck properly, rather than overextending, which a lot of players seem to do with the mono blue deck, which is how you get beaten. Is that once you've emptied your hand, anything can happen. So if you're holding those tricksters back for the right time, rather than panicking and playing them too early, you can lock down so much stuff. I mean, the fact that it just wipes a creature means that it can just blow flyers out of the air pretty easily as well. When it comes to the elves deck, I've seen that deck go off, and it can be quite disgusting, especially when you get things like electrodominance, and you just like gonna burn somebody out with a massive Marwyn is just, and that's painful. That's painful for anyone.
I was playing Banefire.
Well, yeah, I mean some versions could definitely drop in the Banefire. I don't know which one I'd rather. I think Banefire personally, because once you get past the 5 for the X, then it becomes a real problem for your opponent that they just can't stop.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. I mean, this elf deck is still playing Beast Whisperer, right? Is it playing Conqueror's Banner or Vanquisher's Banner? That's what it's called.
Vanquish's banner.
Yeah.
The elf list is not, no.
Okay, interesting.
Mm.
Because that was
So
always to me the critical part of playing the elf ball list. Obviously, you're aping the elf ball list of eternal formats, which get to play Glimpse of Nature. Not being so lucky here in Standard, we have to make do with a 4 mana creature and a 5 mana artifact. But
yeah, well, I
finding the
think
right.
that
Sorry,
that's
go
why
ahead.
this one's playing the splash for Rhythm of the Wild instead of just mono green.
Yeah, I guess it's a different tack. You're trying to be more aggressive than grindy, I suppose, or than combo-y. But if you take a turn off to cast Beast Whisperer, at the very least, it's a creature. When you take a turn off to cast Vanquish's Banner, it's when you often already have a board of elves because you're
Mm-hmm.
casting at turn 5 and it retroactively buffs those elves, as opposed to when you're casting Rhythm of the Wild on turn 3, and not only are you not producing a body, but any elves you played before that on turn 1 and 2, you're not really getting value out of.
Absolutely.
So, and because it's not like a card draw spell like those others I mentioned, you're now like hoping to just top deck a series of elves so that you can get your use out of Rhythm of the Wild. It seems a little bit tricky to use in the deck,
Mm-hmm.
but I really think Rhythm of the Wild's an awesome card. So I'm happy to see people playing it. I think my favorite home for it currently is the Gates deck. Although
The
I don't
Gates
know.
deck is just it's so bad to play against.
Mhm.
I'm not a massive fan. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, not every Gates player I've seen is playing Rhythm of the Wild. One of the things I like about the deck is that there's real variation in what they choose to win with outside of like the Gates package. But I don't know. I've been having a pretty good record with it. I think it's a matter of what deck you are playing. Like the matchups, some of the matchups against the Gate deck I'm fairly sure close to unwinnable.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the creature decks, but it's just the case that like if I'm on the ladder playing right now on Arena and I'm not playing against Sultai, I am playing against Gates. People are just jamming that deck, especially in the lower tiers of the ladder, I suppose, because it's easy to make. So
Oh
you just got to
yeah.
make sure you don't lose to it. I mean, personally, I've been playing Black White Creatureless Control if I play best of one, and just taking advantage of the fact that between the Gates deck and the Izzet Drake's deck and some of the random like green blue ramp decks that people play with Crises and Biogenic Ooze, most decks are only playing like 12 real threats, if that. So, and they're relying on some amount of graveyard recursion with Gate Colossus or Find Finality, that sort of thing. So if you exile all of their creatures and just play a lot of rats, you do run people out of cards that can hurt you. And then you can win at your leisure.
Speaking of Crisis,
Yes.
that's something that we're now seeing everywhere. I remember when it originally was spoiled, a lot of people weren't very high on it. But now people are realizing that it's such a good late game clutch play as well. Because I mean, you're gaining all that life, even though it's half of X, and you're drawing all those cards. It's really good.
I mean, it's a card with no flaws. I think its largest weakness is having converted mana cost 2, which makes it vulnerable to and being an X, like a 0/0 base creature, which makes it vulnerable to a few like cheap tricks. But you would happily pay the cost of like having the card get stolen and killed by Angrath, for instance, or dying to New Vraska, or Mana Vraska.
Angrath, isn't that one of your signature plays? I'm pretty sure I've seen you post a couple of times about killing people with their own Crisis via Angrath.
My best of 3 deck that I was playing for a long while. I recently did a ton of drafting and broadened out my collection. But prior to that, the only close to tier deck I had to play ladder with was like a Jund Chainwhirler status statue mid-range deck. And yes, it plays 2 Angrath in the main and another in the side. So I was consistently getting people down to a Crisis, and they go for the life-saving Crisis. Like, oh, my 8/8, this will block your Rekindling Phoenixes. And then you just slam the Angrath you've been holding in your hand the whole game and steal it. But I mean, even that feels great if you have lethal on board after the Crisis, but so often it's the case that you're not in a position to immediately win, or you weren't holding specifically Angrath to deal with that card plus the life it gained. And instead it means that they just cast 1 Crisis, and then the next turn they cast the other Crisis, they draw off that one, and then they cast the other Crisis, they draw off that one, and it's just like a huge ask to have you be able to beat not only like 4 Crises back to back, as well as all of the miscellaneous creatures they drew, which is why I just shifted to this like almost entirely removal 7 sweepers, exile based life gain control deck, so that I if I'm going to have to deal with all of that, the only way I can is by building my entire deck to deal with that. So far, it's working out.
Just for anyone wondering as well, while we're here, that last match was, you can follow Douches on Twitch at twitch.tv/DOUGES on Twitch. And the same with GGVaxi, twitch.tv/GGVaxi. Now coming up, I believe that we have twitch.tv/MP Numbers, and of course Lady Danger. Lady Danger is a content creator from here in Melbourne, not per se a streamer, but you can find the Planeswalkers Pantheon over on the Facebook.
Yeah, fantastic.
So what we're looking at here, I believe that this is Fisher Friends is Lady Danger's deck. It is a Merfolk deck, and MP Numbers is playing a mono black vampire deck, which is something I haven't seen in a while.
All right. Mono black vampires, that's something I've never seen ever. I always saw, black white vampires as a popular sort of casual or ladder deck back in like Ixalan, because the rares were pretty easy to get, and it's sort of an easy deck to build. If you're not familiar with deck building, tribal decks are like this really great, I say training wheels in like the least insulting way possible. They really are like a good place to start, because you can go, okay, vampires, what good vampires are there? And you just immediately narrow your pool of cards to consider. But mono black, any reason why you would build mono black over black white?
I can't think of any reason why you would go over without actually playing white in the deck. To me, the kind of archetype really is just stronger with the white, because you have access to so much better removal and vampires. But I'm not really sure.
I guess it could be just a concession to either the cost of the mana base, if you want to be a smooth curve in an aggro deck, which it looks like this is.
Mm-hmm.
Having to make those white dual lands isn't something people necessarily want to do with their rares. If you just want to make fun spell rares, I can definitely get behind that. And maybe running some of the black discard based effects or black graveyard effects.
Well, I mean,
Really
when I'm
cool.
looking at this listed, like I know that MP numbers is very much a limited player, and this deck looks very much like it's just based on draft commons and uncommons, perhaps.
Yeah. Or one of the precon decks, you see the murder in there,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. Like not totally beyond playable, because you can play cast down, but this hits legendary creatures. Um, it's unconditional removal. It doesn't hit enchantments, but you're not playing white for mortify. So what I'd like to see now that I see that black vampire on the battlefield, and since we're going this far and playing mono black vampires, I hope that MP numbers um, has some sort of like sneaky recursion plan. But you can play like gruesome menagerie if this is really an aggro deck.
Look, to be honest, the only rares that I can see in this deck are 3 copies of Sword Point Diplomacy.
Oh, you
This
have the
looks,
deck list, of course.
yes, this very much just looks like a very cheap, put together, basic vampires deck to try and get the job done and just turn things sideways and smash face.
Fair enough. Well, that's always a fun challenge as well. I mean, unfortunately, playing against what looks like a decently powered Merfolk deck from Lady Danger, or the
Mm-hmm.
spell pierce on the removal spell. There's
Second
another one
removal
in hand
spell.
though. Yep. You could even hold off on it. We're going to attack here. Good limited player, always saving your plays, giving as many opportunities to the opponent as possible to either show more of their hand or make a mistake to save you the trouble. We're going to go with the Trickster before combat. Okay. This is pretty solid. Could have played it as a combat trick to get the +1/+1 counter pump and block something, but
Mm-hmm.
just going to stonewall the attackers instead. Trying to pump the Deep-Root Elite out of Moment of Craving range, possibly, since we just saw a copy of that card, but there is the murder still. Will we see the
Yeah, I
murder?
think I think we'll
Or,
see the
yeah.
murder.
No, we're going to amplify. I like this. I like this play. Expanding the board, increasing the next turn's attack, and then you can use murder to push through that damage from the creatures you just played. Sleep in hand might be instrumental for Lady Danger to try and buy some more time. There's the Commander Tyrant of Arazka, which is a great engine card for the Merfolk deck, and I think when I play against Merfolk, Deep Root Elite and this card are the two cards that I fear the most. So at least Lady Danger has the right parts of her deck. Just the ability of Commander to make it so the Merfolk deck doesn't have to force anything and doesn't run out of gas. They don't have to run into Settle the Wreckage. They don't necessarily have to play all their cards into a Wrath in an attempt to clock you faster. They can just sort of build up their team until there's no bad attacks, draw cards until they're certain they've got enough gas to reload. Some people take it a little too far, but
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the other thing with the Merfolk deck is that it can take its time. It doesn't need to rush. It doesn't need to force those attacks through blockers and stuff like that because of Commander. Commander's just such a good positive engine for this deck. And like this deck just
unfortunately,
wouldn't exist without her.
yeah, unfortunately, that murder in hand numbers rewarded for saving the removal spell for so long gets
Mm-hmm.
it off on the legendary Merfolk, and now pushing through attacks with these sneaky tiny vampires. Unfortunately, the Conquistador has like the worst version of being a 2x for 1. It has like opponent loses 1 life. So it can't really threaten the Trickster there and Lady Danger, feeling that she still has enough life left over to chump block. Swinging now for 5. Do you hold the sleep and see if you can set up lethal? Because you are winning the race here.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you hold off on that, it's like, I suppose, do you think your deck is going to offer you up plays on subsequent turns, or are you going to keep drawing lands? Because if you're going to keep drawing lands, you need to hold off this sleep until Numbers tries to block or Numbers commits to racing you, and then you time walk them, basically. But if you think that your deck's going to give you playable Merfolk, you might want to sleep now, get the extra turn of damage in, and then have your lands untapped ready to play creatures.
And time walking is just so powerful in Magic. Like if you can time walk somebody, they've lost so much momentum. You can just usually just smash them.
Turns are absolutely the most important resource in this game. It's not the way in all card games, but apart from things like Keyforge or Netrunner that are intentionally designed to like decouple your flow of resources from the turn cycle, taking an extra turn will always and forever be maybe the strongest thing you can do. Now, Sword Point Diplomacy here showing its, I'm just going to say downside compared to other card draw spells. Going to pay 3 life to deny MP numbers the creature and then just give 2 swamps over.
Oof.
I really wish that it were written slightly differently as a card, especially when you consider something like risk factor that's or strictly better. Like I suppose the cost per card is different, but even if it was something like 2 life per card, and you had to choose how much life to pay first, it was like choose to, your opponent exiles the top 3 cards of their deck face down. You may pay 2 life for each of those cards, and then all the cards are revealed, and for each 2 life you paid, you get to choose one and put it into the player's graveyard.
Mm-hmm. Could you imagine if they based it on like the combustible gearhog type mechanic?
Oh, we have to, well, sort of like
making them pay for the actual casting cost of the card.
That would be pretty sick if you could. Then you could kind of build a deck with that and like Demon Lord Belzenlock and just have this like big. I haven't seen a big black deck actually since before Guilds of Ravnica. People playing Cabal Stronghold for a little while there. Now we see the Time Walk mode of Sleep coming down, tap down the blockers, the Merfolk getting in, another Sword Point Diplomacy. I mean, at least the life total is low enough now that the Sword Point Diplomacy is just going to be a draw 3. So the card looking great now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if your opponent has like literally any amount of life, they can really deny you the chance to make that spell effective. Numbers maybe going to hold on to that. Nope, going to play the Moment of Craving. Okay, fair enough. I can see an argument for holding it. You're pretty certain your opponent doesn't have tricks, and you can pay for Spell Pierce, but just looks like the maths might be in Numbers' favor here. We're going to see Benthic Biomancer. You mentioned its adaptability before, Chesh. This is going to be the real test of the card. Draws an incubation, so that's certainly better than a land in this dire situation. See, this is an interesting. Did the card be this card cast? Okay, there it is. It's still in hand, so you probably want to cast the removal side of this, and you have to
the removal side.
You have to kill the Sanctum Seeker, which is the extra rare in this deck, and certainly what is about to kill you. Normally, you would wait until after attackers, maybe to mess up your opponent's combat math, but you want to do it before the triggers go on the stack here. So we're going to see main phase incongruity to, that denies an attacker for this turn, and of course the lethal life drain triggers. There's still a flying vampire that's going to be lethal next turn, though. Really need another sleep off the top for Lady Danger. Yeah, Numbers briefly considering whether there was any more attacks to make, but none are to any benefit, so just lay down one more vampire and now has lethal from several angles. That's not a sleep, that's an island. Yeah, good game, unfortunately. Credit to Numbers. MP Numbers getting there with the all commons and uncommons vampire tribal in mono black.
Look, I'm surprised that deck actually paid it.
Sanctum Seeker is a really good card in creature-based matchups. All right, so we're already through 2 rounds of our Creator Rumble. This is flying by. It's an interesting little test run, a pilot, you could say, for what we hope to be doing more of in the future, just running tournaments. If people out there are content creators and would like to play in a tournament of best of 1 or maybe even best of 3 matches, show off your decks, have some fun, get in touch, because we only have, I think, 7 people today, which means that this might be our last round coming up.
Second, that was still the first round.
Oh, it's still first round? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we time shifted.
Right. I didn't realize we had time walking technology. We were just talking about how that's the most powerful feature in Magic, and now we're harnessing the power of Time Walk to bring you more streamed matches. That's fantastic. I was internally a little sad.
I kind of feel like MP Numbers might have also mastered the Time Walk there.
Yes,
Just somehow
yes.
pull out that win with that janky pile.
Just draw more of your creatures and your opponent draws their creatures, you know? Okay, so who do we have up next? What's our next matchup?
That is a good question. I am asking production. I think that we'll be seeing Oxhead Jordan and Manorix TV.
Okay. I feel like that should be maybe a higher tier matchup.
It'll be very interesting. Okay, that definitely looks like the way that we're going to be going with the next round. Now, I think if I'm not certain of which player's playing which deck, to be honest, but we've got a mono red Calamity Tokens deck, of all things. And I believe that the other deck we will be seeing here should be the Arcades Your Face deck, which is, of course, the Arcades the Strategist deck.
Yeah, I was saying before the stream went live, I'm really happy to see this deck get its boots on and do some kicking because I honestly thought before High Alert was released that was going to really. I looked at the conglomeration of cards for the Defenders / Toughness Matters deck, and I went, "This is it. This is the real deal." Like, it's one of the archetypes like Life Gain Aggro or whatever that has admittedly also been getting some support. I mean, if we're going to continue listening, there's Taking Turns. There's all these like fringe, I'll say, exciting archetypes or unusual competitive archetypes that are more the purview of casual players that have been getting enough support to actually justify playing them in standard. And I actually expected the Defenders deck to be the best out of all of them. It has card draw. It has it has a game plan that's like inherently defensive. So its flaw when it doesn't draw the right cards is just it plays a ton of walls and doesn't die, and then eventually it draws the right cards and wins. Can win out of nowhere with ridiculous burst damage off of tower defense, or even just like the first Arcades or High Alert you resolve onto a board full of walls usually means they die in the combat step. It really seemed to have the gas.
Yeah, I think that this Arcades deck is going to be really quite interesting because it also runs Unbreakable Formation, which is a card that I was talking about for a long time after it was spoiled. And this is basically just that it's an instant that gives your creatures indestructible, more or less. It does have a Debda on it. But, I mean, really, at the end of the day, this is just kind of like to circumnavigate like board wipes and removal and things. So, I don't know, I'm really excited. It is obviously also running High Alert, because why wouldn't you? So, I'm really excited to see how this matchup actually goes.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot with Unbreakable Formation. I draft it every chance I get in draft, and I've been jamming it in all my white creature decks in Constructed. I think the card's incredible. It reminds me of prior to rotation, I was playing a sweet Selesnya tokens list that tried to abuse both History of Benalia and Song of Freyalise. If you have enough, if you put bodies down on turn 1 and turn 2, or you cast one of the 2 turn 2 make 2 token spells, and on turn 3 you cast Song of Freyalise and then use the creatures to cast History in the same turn, and then you have both of the chapter 3s going off simultaneously. And the feeling of that attack when you have like 5 bodies on the board, all your creatures have +1/+1 permanently, vigilance and indestructible. You've already drastically changed the maths of the race, and you just get a free roll attack where your opponent either drops to so low that you really crimp their options for the rest of the game, or loses all their creatures. It's awesome. So Unbreakable Formation I am a big fan of. We'll have to see if it does the amount of work I'm expecting it to here.
Cool. Well, I'm being told that we're cutting to the game in just a moment. So just quickly, you can find Orcshead Jordan over at twitch.tv/orcsheadmagic and youtube.com/orcsheadmagic. As for Menadorks TV, twitch.tv/Menadorks TV, I believe is Menadorks' channel. So you should definitely go and check both of those out. And here we go. I gotta say, I'm actually quite surprised that MTG Arena just looks this good, considering like coming off Magic Online into this. Such a huge change.
It really is esports, baby. Oh man, look at this. We were talking about how sweet the Defender's deck is. Here's another standard archetype that I really feel has potential. It's the Cavalcade of Calamity deck, and there are 2 such Cavalcades. Oh no, the Goblin Instigator. It's all coming together so fast for Orcshead Magic. This is like the truest clash, right? You've got the Defender's deck that's just like all walls, the ultimate defensive position, even if obviously its intent is to be tricky and then turn into unblockable giant beaters with Tetsuko Umezawa and Arcades we see in hand. But this is like the 1/1 army here. I'm really interested by the decision to play the Cavalcade instead of the second Instigator, though.
Yeah, I probably would have gone for the Instigator there personally, but I think that Orcshead is just trying to maximize damage on board as fast as possible. But I'm not sure if that's the right call there.
Look at the triggers going off. Yeah, I'm not sure whether it was an attempt to play around a Quench or something, because I would probably value the extra creatures higher. But and then you could have played the Cavalcade this turn and been attacking with twice as many goblins. But you know, this is
triggers. That's great.
In the end, it's all about the total damage potential. And between the Cavalcade and the Instigators, that's your early game lined up. And we see the Banefire already in hand. That's a really canny deck building choice by Orcshead, knowing that a deck full of 1/1s is very vulnerable to running out of steam. It can be swept. It can just be blocked to death. You're going to constantly be losing goblins in this grim roar of attrition as you swing them into larger creatures just to get Cavalcade triggers. And so at some point, your opponent is going to run you out of them and feel as though they've stabilized. But the unpreventable damage train does not end there.
More goblins! More goblins! Yeah, I mean, especially with the amount of sweepers out there at the moment, right? Like, Ritual of Soot wrecks this Cavalcade deck.
Cry
you've
the
got
Carnarium.
Chaos Wrath. Yeah, you've got so many things, and it's just like trying to have a backup so that if they are running, say, Esper Control against you, you can just Banefire for the win at some point.
And that's it. That's the perfect demonstration of this Goblin deck. There's no defense against that.
It's just so gross. Getting 2 of those Calamities out. Ugh.
That's like the night.
No.
You probably couldn't put the draw together better.
And there's the Banefire. This match took like 3 minutes. If that. It was just all over with all Manadogs just being smashed by those Gobos and those triggers. I have to try this deck out. That's gross.
And the best thing is that deck's like all commons. Like, you can play Banefire if you want, but you're playing Basic Mountain, you're playing Goblin Instigator, you're playing Goblin Gathering, you're playing like 1/1 Haste Goblin that has the ability to only be blocked by Defender creatures for 1 red. You can play like Footlight Fiend or something. It's just jamming all these commons in there. And it's the same reason that it's a great deck to draft in RNA Limited, because especially in Arena currently, it's sort of the new Gates deck where the bots don't really prioritize taking these cards, so they're always in the packs. But you can just put all these common 1x's in the deck and things that make 1x's and 4 Cavalcades. And if you draw your Cavalcades, you're great. If you don't, I'm not sure what you pack out the rest of the deck with, but you can always just play burn spells, just be a slightly less optimized version of the default mono red deck. Absolutely. Or you could play Goblin, is it Goblin Trashmaster, the Lord that's currently in Standard? That's there. You play Burn Bright. There's another payoff. Not a card that people are really in love with. Or you could splash black for Judith. It's really easy to see how this deck comes together. Judith, of course, a non-bow with a Cavalcade, though. Actually, both the cards I mentioned are. Burn Bright isn't. Play Burn Bright. More commons.
More commons.
Actually, no, I know what I'm doing next time the Pauper event comes around. I've never played the Pauper event before, but now I've suddenly realized that's the deck I'm going to play.
Gross.
I mean, I have a history. I suited up black-white 1-drop tribal for the Singleton event that's running at the moment. currently, I think 10-2 in that over 2 runs. Going to finish my playset of Golters later today. So
I went and played at the Singleton event, and I played a pod deck just because I wanted my Golter. So I got my Golters.
nice. The pod deck paid off even with only one Vannifar.
Yeah, it did, because the way that you build the Singleton pod deck isn't as a pod deck; it's a curve deck, so you should be able to curve out really nicely.
Right, of course.
So even if you don't get the Vannifar, you can still play your stuff on curve enough to actually overrun your opponent. Especially when you're doing things like mirror imaging your or cloning your ooze, so that you've got 2 oozes giving +1/+1 counters to your other oozes, and then just creating an army of ooze is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I can see that being game winning. All right, so far already seen a first match in our round 2 pairings. What else do we have coming up?
So the next one we have coming up is Fish Are Friends are going to be going up against Stish Flamer's mono red deck. So, best of one. We all knew that somebody would run a complete mono red deck, like we've been seeing in and out of best of ones. This one is the Daggercaster version of the deck, so it is a little bit different. It's more based around trying to lay out spread damage to control the board and still, try and smash their opponents as fast as possible, but it looks like it's more geared towards getting rid of mono shitters.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to try and sort of spike the meta like that, that's a good deck to be spiking right now. It's really especially on Arena, the darling of top players. And with all of the hype around Arena, I've noticed, like, even more so than on Mitgo, or especially more so than trying to play like FNMs in paper, even the lower levels of the ladder on Arena are just meta decks. If you can't beat Sultai, if you can't beat Mono Blue, if you can't beat Mono Red, if you can't beat Esper Control, you need to rethink the deck you are laddering with, because that is all you will play.
That's it. I've personally had I've stepped away from ladder, simply because originally I was going to try and aim for that top 8, but that grind is 100% real. That is a horrible grind. Yeah. But the 3 mainstays of ladder are always Golgari because of the life gain. There's the burn, the mono red burn aggro deck, and then there is the most horrible mono blue shitters in best of ones, with some pepperings of like gate decks and stuff like that as well. But the 3 main decks you have to try and play against, and there's no way you can tech mainboard against all 3 of those decks. So you either join them or you get beaten by them, and just luck of the draw really when it comes down to it. All right, we've got the next match good to go, so let's jump into that match and let's get it on.
All right, here we go. Oh, okay. That's a mono red hand. Triple lightning strike. And the incorrect lightning strike art.
Yeah.
Strictly worse. I'm upset. Maybe that's the point. Well, Stitch Flame, living up to the latter part of the name. We'll see if Lady Danger can survive this danger, because it's going to be a tough assignment for Merfolk. Having that much spot removal, if you can't line up the spell pierces against it, can spell doom for a tribal creature deck, since you're usually playing creatures that are slightly subpar. Like, I would say Merfolk Trickster is a terrible card, but maybe not like exactly the body you want, and you're hoping to beef that up with Lords or cards like Deep Root Elite that increase their synergy. And if your opponent can snipe those creatures out of your lineup with Lightning Strike, it makes your deck look pretty bad.
Well, see, the Trickster can be really good in some matchups. Especially against I'm trying to remember the name of it. Gitu Lava Runner.
Oh yes.
Because when it comes in and they attack with their Lava Runner and you slap down the Trickster, you can just turn their Lava Runner back into a 1/2 and then kill it.
Yeah, that does actually. It's a really great thing in this lineup. But the flash, obviously, hugely important. since it forces the red opponent to play around the possibility that you'll flash something in during attackers. Okay.
Now, you'll probably notice the frame rate at the moment is a bit shoddy. That's because of Australian internet.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We can't do very much about it. This is why, I guess one of the benefits of playing card games is you don't miss as much as you would. It's still not fantastic, but we're trying our best to keep the frames high. And oh my god, look at this hand for mono red. Drawing the Steamkin. This is a handful of gas. Pure gas. I mean, just in that hand alone, there is, 11 damage, and then whatever the Steam can get you.
Yeah.
I think we're one experimental frenzy away from true death here.
I love Experimental Frenzy. So good.
Yeah, it's a really interesting card. When it came out, there was like a little bit of panic. Oh, look at that, the interaction. The Merfolk Blue Disruption actually getting the upper hand here in the red versus blue battle. Flashing the Trickster, the exact play you described, anticipated by Stitch Flame, who had the Lightning Strike, but then double anticipated by Spellcase. And now here's the window.
Damn.
Yeah, look at that. Okay, so now Lady Danger does actually have a window to build up the Merfolk army before more burn spells can come down. Double Lords, yes. This is starting to feel like Merfolk. Unfortunately, the Lords don't buff themselves, so it can't get the Lords out of lightning striking range, but it's some good damage to get in, and there's only so many lightning strikes available for Stitch Flame.
Yeah, I just want to sing Why Can't We Be Friends?
This is the age-old battle of red versus blue, Cheshire. We can't interfere. It's actually reminded me so much. It was that really nice, I think it was a GP, or maybe it was a Pro Tour, where the grand finals in the Ravnica format came down to mono red aggro versus mono blue aggro. And it's just, there's something so elemental about that matchup being the finals, and how the cards clash with each other in their rival philosophies, despite being both ostensibly aggro decks full of small creatures. This isn't quite that matchup, but it's reminiscent.
Yeah, especially given the history of blue-red in Magic, things like Frenetic Efreets and stuff like that. Some of the weird Pro Tour decks that we've seen in the past when it comes to blue-red. And it's interesting when we think back in the history of how those colours have actually, kind of split over time as well with the mana philosophy. When Wizards are strengthening that philosophy and how they're looking at how colours should be interacting.
Yeah, the color pie has been taken for a drive around the block a few times. Wizards have shifted their views and printed cards that bend and blur the lines. Some purists may even think that sort of blue aggro decks are riding the edge of it as well, but Tempo decks are always among the most popular archetypes in the formats where they exist, things like Delver and Death Shadow. So I just think it's really cool that we have those decks in Standard now.
Absolutely.
Surely you attack... I guess we have to hold back the 4/4. I maybe would have gone for more damage and chump block, but it's fair enough that if you just want to try and stall the game as long as possible, eventually this War Boss will take over given the chance. A really nice pickup here for Stitch Flame, so... Oh, the Dagger Caster has a window to actually be relevant here. Would you attack first and say... No, okay. We're going to Dagger Caster to remove some blockers, make the blocks more difficult. You could maybe have netted yourself some sneaky kills if you just pushed forward with the tokens, and you sort of pressure Lady Danger to block those favorably with the X2 Merfolk. And then Daggercaster would finish the entire board off and pretty much won the game. But this play still leaves Stitch Flame in a pretty sizable advantage. Yeah, Lady Danger can't afford to go for the attack here. Oh, that's very likely going to be the end of it. Unfortunately, too many lands drawn for this Merfolk deck. I'd be interested to look at the land count. Because sometimes it just gets you. Sometimes this is just the shuffler, and that's the variance of Magic that we know and must embrace.
Don't get me started on the shuffler. I hate the shuffler.
Not your friend. Yeah, this looks pretty academic, unfortunately. That Goblin, that Legion War Boss, really not taking that long at all to make this board state look comical. Turns out Goblin Rabble Master is a good card. So, unfortunately, Lady Danger forced to cede the match, overwhelmed by the red hordes.
Red just doing its thing, getting real low, but not being able to be put away, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think that describes almost the interesting new part of Red in this standard. That you were talking about the rich history of Red and Blue decks, and that's very true. But Red in this format has reach and staying power like it's never had before in monocolored Red. At least not that I can think of. Cards like Experimental Frenzy and Light Up the Stage. It's no longer can you hope to sort of just ride out their initial series of lightning bolts and 1-drops and hope that they run out of damage to kill you and start sort of top decking lands and missing their turns. Because now their deck is so much more focused. There's very few missed draws. My apologies. Someone trying to get in touch. This is so exciting. This tournament is so great that they just had to reach me right now and let me know how they felt. That's all right. As you can see, truly a professional esports man. Here with my phone on loud during a cast. I guess I need to go turn to some other footage. But it's certainly a pleasure to be here, and hopefully the beginning of something that we can enjoy for a little while with these content creator rumbles. I'm really appreciative to all our content creators here today, the people who are in Twitch chat, people who built these cool decks. It's just a really nice casual opportunity to bring some names together from the ANZ MTG community and like a meeting of the minds, see what people are interested in playing in standard at the moment, give people a chance to test some decks, which is something I've been struggling with. I've got some wacky brews I really want to try out. And on the one hand, if you don't take them to the ladder, then you're not really going to get that true road testing experience that you want to know whether how good your brew is. But it's also disheartening to lose matches with a brew that's not even completely tuned yet to tier 1 standard decks and watch your rank drop. And, sort of feel like that's something you have to wear in order to perfect your deck. So little fan community tournaments like this are a great environment for that kind of testing.
Absolutely. Just on that, so Stitch Flemens on Twitch, STICHFLAMMENZ. So definitely go and check them out and check out all their socials and stuff, which they are the same overall. We're going to be cutting to another match now. This one is going to be Orcshead Jordan versus GG Vexy.
I thought their name was Stitch Flam NZ for New Zealand.
I thought that as well, and I was trying to figure out at one point why I couldn't add their name on Facebook to go and like their Facebook page, and it's because I kept saying Stitch instead of Sitch.
Ah. There you go. Stitch Flammers, my apologies then.
Mm-hmm. So we've got the Mono Red versus Elves. So this should be very interesting again.
Oh,
see how this breaks down.
Okay, so this was our first match that we watched had Vexy's Elf deck in it. Now I'm seeing a little bit more of it. I approve of the Elf Lord, obviously, but you were mentioning burn them out with a big Marwyn, and I thought, okay, Banefire. Banefire's in standard. That's the X spell finisher of choice. Electro Dominance is in hand. That is a spicy meatball.
Yeah.
Are there any real haymaker cards that are being put into play off of this, or is it just for the flexibility of I'll get in a bit of damage and put down an elf? Because I could see both being decent.
I just think that it's probably just for the damage, to be honest. Looking through the list, there's nothing massive and expensive that I could think of that she's trying to play. It just looks very much like trying to push the extra damage through.
Well, we see the versatility of Electro Dominance here. Not typically something that you think of with an X spell, always, but manages to put down an elf, remove a enemy creature, and play out the hand all in one turn. Pretty solid start.
Mm-hmm.
This is just what I was talking about testing different decks. You can tell this is a build Vexy's been sort of like experimenting with. And
this is so the history of this is when Vexy started doing Arena on Twitch, she's a massive Elves fan.
Okay.
Oh, look at that! She's using it as removal to play the Guardian. Okay, I get it now. So
Oh, wow.
basically,
Sorry, you are quite a bit behind me. My apologies.
I am, because Twitch is
Damn.
not great. But basically, the deck that she was originally playing was straight elf deck. Then once M19 dropped, she started playing this kind of like elf tutor deck. Once Ravnica dropped, she started playing this kind of more elfy, bally tutory deck, which is great.
This is really, an interesting build. I'm looking at studying this closely, trying to figure out what I would do in this situation. Now I'm interested to see with this X spell whether you could play Electrodominance and Banefire, and whether or not you could play like Radha, which is a card I've been desperately trying to find a home for. We were mentioning before the efficacy of removal spells against tribal deck. Oh no. We've had a disconnection from the match. The arena special happens to me all the time. All right. So we're back in the match now. Sorry about that technical difficulties, but that's on Arena's end for once, not ours. You can blame Wizards. The lightning strike going off, but in response, fetch from one elf lord to a different elf lord, and so the cycle continues. I've really enjoyed playing with Elvish Clan Caller. I'm not as surprised as with some other things that it hasn't had a tremendous impact on standard, just because, you know, like we said, tribal decks are vulnerable to removal, and if a deck like Merfolk that gets to play more disruption can't quite get the job done, I'm not surprised that like their elves list is just inferior to other green decks. But if you're already committed to playing elves, that Clan Caller is like a really fun card to play around with, especially with the access to big mana you can get from cards like Growing Rights of Itlamok, you know, casual Gaia's Cradle in standard.
Absolutely. Here comes that Electrodominance.
There it is. That's the game. You know what? I'm going to have to try Red Green Elves.
Oh, Vexy pulling out the win there.
Good to me, but yeah, this green red build looks like the real deal. So that Vexy was defeated in the first match we watched, right? So that's revenge, or
that is revenge.
Vindication. Not technically revenge if you don't take it out on the same person, but it's always fun when your pet deck gets across the line on stream. It's a great feeling.
Absolutely.
Hope to be streaming again myself very soon. Now that obviously as I'm present here, I'm getting internet slowly up and running at my new domicile. Be back to streaming at Twitch TV/The WanderingBard real soon. And I have so many arena decks lined up. It's unreal. That's all I've been doing while I haven't had streaming internet, is just grinding up my collection and lining up deck recipes. I will be ready.
Nice. Well, if you need any really weird, spicy recipes, I'm sure I can pull up something for you.
I've been digging it. We've got I've got Lumbering Battlement combo is actually the deck I'm trying to test out right now, trying to optimize, if such a thing can be said. I have won some matches with it, but I don't think it's quite tournament ready.
Mm-hmm. I clicked in the wrong one.
Pushing ever onwards now to MP Numbers, who, as mentioning my Lumbering Battlement deck, I've of course been tuning that for the other community league that's being run by MP Numbers. So if this is the kind of thing you like, just watching low stakes fun tournaments with interesting cool deck lists with content creators involved, Numbers is another person you should check out. Take kind of the opposite approach to us with the Content Creator Rumble. His project is like a long-running league between teams of content creators, so the content's sort of more able to be digested and put up in bite-sized chunks on YouTube, that sort of thing, streamed at the times people want. It's a big undertaking. And my team has been assigned to the Esper Shard for our first sort of like budget deck building challenge. So that's what's led me to playing Lumbering Battlement combo of all things. You can't play it, or it's strongly discouraged that you play a meta list. Your deck has to be all the colors of your shard. And I also have 3 teammates who plucked out like some of the more obvious non-meta Esper builds you could play. So I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel, and I decided that I may as well lean into it and try and loop copies of Lumbering Battlement as hard as I can.
Battlement.
It does look pretty fun on Arena.
All right, so we're starting the game here. Ooh, both of those hands don't look fantastic, I'll be honest.
Yeah, the mono blue hand, I mean, you've got some pretty good disruption, but only having 1 creature in hand and having it be a 2-drop is almost enough reason to mulligan that hand away. I think that one's more borderline. The Vampires deck, I mean, we saw it pull out a win earlier, but I'll admit I still have my doubts. MP numbers are definitely like punching above the weight class of this deck. Sanctum Seeker is the card that will let you do that, though, so I'd leave that on top. Yeah, exactly.
The Seeker really makes everything better.
Lands are important, but when you have a card that does that much to increase the efficacy of your deck, you kind of just, you've got 20-something lands in there. You'll draw more of those. You don't want to bottom that Sanctum Seeker. And gets out the Earthsworn Vampire. Just one of the cards that has a
version of Opt.
Oh yeah, the Pirate Opt. We saw the wrong version of Lightning Strike before as well. I don't know what these people are doing. If they don't have enough common wild cards to make the superior card art version, or what's happening. But truly, we should all feel sadness for them. Offers up the trade with the 2/2, since only one of these creatures comes back from the graveyard. Can he play by numbers? Opt to let the blue player untap, though, which is maybe not what I would have done, because now we're going to see the blue deck do what the blue deck does.
This is what the blue deck does best.
Yeah,
no, you can't kill my creature. Your removal is blanked. I'm going to smack you in the face now.
And according to some players, this game is over. if the blue player is able to put Curious Obsession on a flyer and save it from a removal spell and hit you even once, but certainly twice, it starts to look so bad for you. We'll see where the numbers can keep up. Maybe the Brute Force life gain from the Sanctum Seeker can change the equation, but I think that's why maybe you have to jam that Moment of Craving while Dude is still tapped out. Mm-hmm. Really punish Dudes for having that 2-drop creature, because normally if you were mono blue and you had a 1-drop, you might just wait until the second turn so you could play the 1-drop and hold up a dive down and just like completely safeguard your single creature, because that's the core of your strategy. But
absolutely, the number of times that I've done that myself, and even just representing that untapped island, giving the fake out that you may have a dive down even if you don't, can usually put your opponent off so much that they won't actually try and kill it. They'll be like, I don't want to waste it here, I want to wait for you to tap out. It's like, just punish them for it.
You tempt them with the idea, maybe they haven't played against the deck as much. You're like, I'll tap out for a Tempest Djinn at some point. I'll tap out for an Opt, you'll get me.
I was about to say, speaking of punishment.
Yeah. There's a Punisher card being played, but
It does. Look, personally, I don't think it does enough.
I mean, certainly today it's just seeing 2 swamps every time it's cast in a deck that doesn't really have that many uses for the big mana. Elects to give all of the life. All of the cards to numbers and pay none of the life, those douches. So trusting in the Tempest Djinn to win the race, which at this point doesn't seem unreasonable.
Mm.
And we're quickly reaching the kind of board state, especially with 5 islands out, where Douches doesn't ever really need to do anything ever again except hold up, dive down, and Essence Scatter, or Essence Capture. And pretty soon this game will end. All because of that one Moment of Craving decision to try and hold it up for extra value, which would typically be correct against other decks, but not against the dive down tempo lists.
And there's a Terramander.
This game is just snowballed out of control. You're going to see Essence Capture now come into play. That mana being held up. And just
I think
throwing in
no
an
one
attack.
knows here that it's basically all over. He's just going to go all in.
Yeah, just laying in the attack. One last act of defiance.
If I'm going to die, I will do it on my own terms.
Yeah, pretty much. At least Numbers has that tech where you can always argue that you have. Wow.
Douches. Wow.
It's just with the disrespect. Does not allow Numbers anything. We will give him nothing and take from him everything.
Just says no, and now I'm going to swing back and I'm really going to make you hurt.
Mm-hmm. Interesting decision as well, I note, to cast Essence Capture and put the counter on the Terramander. Like, normally I would question that decision because obviously it prevents you from later adapting it. Mm-hmm. But in that case, it kind of enhances the dive down block to be a one-sided non-trade or trade of dive down for a creature, I guess, which is always solid. If you ever trade dive down for another more expensive card, that's the whole point of it. So there you go. Unfortunately, Numbers not able to defy the odds twice with that sort of draft chaff vampires list. I hope he's not insulted by me calling it that, incidentally. I know that in the Content Creators Cup that I was mentioning earlier, there is sort of a dictate that everybody play these sorts of more fringe, janky lists with common mana bases and that sort of thing. So I can see how Numbers is probably a fan of these lower power decks.
All right, so we're on to round 3 now. We'll have GG Vexy versus MP Numbers up first.
Oh, fantastic.
So Elves versus Vampies. Dushas says he had a good set of draws. Draws better than skill.
It is. I have a friend. One of my favorite players in Magic is my friend Vincent. He's been heavily involved with sort of like the university card game communities over the years. Mm-hmm. Just like one of the most positive and wholesome people I know, and brings that attitude to Magic, both in building his favorite decks and fringe decks and riding them to big results, as well as just being an encouraging person to play with. And his motto is to be better lucky than good, which is not just his motto, but it's something he repeats so much that I just associate it with him, his big smiling face saying that. Whenever I get done in by the shuffler or my opponent having exactly the draws or anything like that, it's that sort of positive, serendipitous approach to the RNG aspects of Magic that I try to emulate.
I always try and be positive about the shuffler, but the shuffler hates me so much. Oh, the frame rates on this Australian internet. Just killing me.
It's like wading through a thick Australian swamp. Soon, avoiding the crocodiles and other dangers, we will arrive at our next match, and we'll be able to enjoy more of this fantastic Creators Content Rumble MTG action. I'm actually kind of jealous that I'm on commentary right now. Like, I
want to be playing.
Yeah, exactly. I love doing commentary. I'll never go away from doing it, but I'm glad that there is more than one creative tournament going on, and that in addition to filling the behind the mic role here, I get to mix it up with some people in some of the other tournaments that are happening. Sites like Aether Hub running weekly tournaments for everyone. Anyone can join. Like I mentioned, MP Numbers, and of course, hopefully future Rumbles as well. So tons to do if you are enjoying like casual MTG tournaments, which is a really fun way to play Magic. Just adds a bit more of a storyline, lets you see your own progress and try stuff out. Really encourage people to take a look.
Makes sense. All right, so we're looking at a good hand here from Elves from GG Vexy.
Is any hand where you open with Llanowar Elves by definition a good hand?
Exactly. Strong open there with Llanowar Elves. The only thing that I can see here that might be a problem is we'll see if it happens. Here comes the cast down, right?
Maybe. Looks like we've squeaked past the not having any, like only having one mana source in play window because we got down the second mana elf before the first mana elf could die.
There's the cast down.
Yeah, but there's a third mana elf in hand. So this hand's surprisingly resilient, and there is we're going to see Rhythm of the Wild now. Surely this is the thing that makes Rhythm of the Wild playable and to a degree main deckable is Llanowar Elves. If you can play it on turn 2, I mentioned when I was discussing the card earlier, the difference between taking turn 2 off and taking turn 3 off is often like 5 or 6 damage against aggressive decks. So this is a much better window to play the card, and now this Incubation Druid is going to come down and immediately be adapted effectively, which is just massive.
And for those wondering about the Content Creator Cup that's being run by MP Numbers, if you search for the hashtag MTG CCC Cup, which is a lot of C's, you'll be able to find that on the Twitter.
The Content Creator Challenge Cup?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Because I tried typing CCC the first time because I thought the cup was the last C, but it is not. It's Trick C, you see.
Like Trixie Hobbitses?
Yeah. I won't call Numbers a hobbit. I've never met him. I'm not going to cast that aspersion, even as a fellow hobbit myself. But could be.
Does that make me an orc because I'm big and fat?
Only if you want to be.
Okay, I'm an orc. That's fine.
Orcs are pretty cool.
I can run with this.
All right, so Numbers actually making those 1-2s and Moments of Cravings the great tag team job there, managing to take out the Incubation Druid on the block, which is unfortunately going to deny the required mana to start chaining together these clan callers. So just stopping the Elf Ball from rolling at the minute. See if Numbers can keep it up.
He's going to slow down Elf Ball just a little bit, but probably not for too long. Especially with that Clan Caller. That Clan Caller is just simply amazing. It is such a great card.
All right. Moment of Craving again from Numbers. This is the last sort of round in the chamber. Not that Vexy's to know. 2 swamps in hand. If I was Numbers, I'd almost just hold those swamps up, really. But
oh, yeah. I'm just wondering if we're going to see a Stony Strength here to save it.
Yes.
It looks like
do it. Whoa. Okay. Was that a... Oh, dear. Maybe a misclick?
I don't know.
Luckily, this is maybe the best draw you could have drawn in the situation. Both players are out of gas. Your Clan Caller just died. You don't click haste. Yeah! Look at the synergy!
She knows what she's doing.
Search your deck for a card named Growth Chamber Guardian. Don't mind if I do. Don't mind if I do again, even. Yeah, so Growth Chamber Guardian is like the best argument for playing Rhythm of the Wild. This effect is so strong. And it's optional.
Just so good.
So, like, against it just gives you this endless gas. It sort of makes even more efficient what the card already represents against control decks, like the ability to keep fighting and force sweepers and not run out of bodies. But with Rhythm of the Wild, you can do the same trick on time to be effective against creature-based aggro decks as well, just chucking out 3/3s. It's really hard to deal with.
Speaking of extra bodies to draw cards, there's that Beast Whisper in hand.
Yep.
That is
wow,
nice.
Okay. Going for the attack. Vexy really feeling it, decides to push the aggression. I would maybe, considering that you've got like this little combo in hand of 2 more Growth Chamber Guardians to cast and the Beast Whisperer, I might have held back because now, yeah, your opponent still is on 18 life and Numbers with the maximum punish, going to drop the Sanctum Seeker. And now Vexy only has a couple of turns to win, which is possible, but it's just like, if you were to play defensively and just try and stop the flow of damage between players, stop the trading, I'm sure this elf deck is going to pull ahead of the vampires pretty rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
I said Vampires by mistake, and now I can't help but think of some like mono blacklist playing Cabal Stronghold.
Ramp vampires.
I mean, if we still
Vampires.
had cards, you could do it in Modern or something. If you still had cards like Drana, Calastria, Blood Chief as a mana sink, but and you play the Nakana Revenant, the Vampire Spirit that doubles swamps. So Vampires could be a deck, but unfortunately playing Standard at the minute. Search your library for a card named Growth Chamber Guardian, sure thing, except that we're out of them.
All gone.
But not all gone. As you can see, just from this one turn, the off deck is now massively wider on board with several, equally threatening elves in hand, and Numbers has an Oathsworn Vampire. So how much better would this position be if Vexy had even more life?
Oh, yeah.
That being said, I made all that big rigmarole about the potential punish, and Numbers ended up being conservative with the Conquistador, so just attacked him with the flyer that you have probably attacked him with anyway. But I'd like to argue my point is still relevant.
I think your point's still valid to a degree.
I just make... thank you
from a certain point of view.
Thanks, Chesh, for sticking up for me. Okay, so we're going to see Marwyn the Nurturer here. Now, is there an argument to haste this creature?
Well, let's see. Yes, there is, because then you can Incubation Druid.
Oh, yes. Draws the forest,
But,
nice.
I mean, drew the forest, so that's...
now you play the Druid.
Good pool as well.
You play the Druid.
Yep. Because now you don't need to tap your Marwyn to play the Druid.
Yeah. You haste the Druid, okay, yes. And then you play Stony, you play the untap spell on the Druid. We're doing it. This is exciting. I am excited. Like, watching this go off right now is pretty cool.
It's so good.
Put a counter on the Druid and untap it.
That's why I want to play this deck, because it just looks so good.
It does some cool tricks. Yep, we're going to slam a Steel Leaf Champion, and now you get the double Rhythm of the Wild situation. It's like, yeah, that's really good.
Get that damage in.
Yeah, so unsurprisingly, the Elf Ball deck looks a lot better when you have Beast Whisperer.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that I think is really missing here, and that I'd really miss from playing White, is the ability to even to sideboard and to play a card like Stilling Stance. Sorry, I always call it Stilling Stance. Unbreakable Formation, because there's a nearly identical looking card from original Ravnica.
No.
Just the art's the same. It's the same art. But Unbreakable Formation or playing Maker Stand, because like when you play this many elves this quickly, the only thing your opponent can really do is board wipe you. So as long as you're blanking that board wipe somehow, I would be feeling good about this position.
Mm-hmm. Is Vexy just dead here, though? Like, she'll lose 5 life when they all attack anyway, right?
Well, does Numbers have to block?
I don't believe so. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I count 20 on board for Vexy.
Oh, that's so painful.
There's just 1 away. And when Numbers swings back regardless, even if Vexy doesn't attack with everything.
No.
The triggers are going to be 5, because there's 4 from...
Wow, the Vampires deck getting...
family.
So, damn, the Vampires deck did get there.
I mean, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure my math is on point.
No, you're. I'm doing the maths now. You're well spotted. Oh man.
Here I would have just flunged. I would have just attacked with everything and just been like, well, I'm gonna die anyway, so.
I think from a like getting the last few tenths of a percentage point, like I respect Numbers enough to know that this is almost like this is basically game. But I would still make this sort of attack where you are... no
longer game. Wow. Maybe Numbers will draw into something? I don't
Maybe
know.
Numbers is anticipating a trick or something. Like you could cast... There's the like giant growth type spell. Reach, Gift of Strength. You cast off the Marwyn, but like, is that really in the main deck? Oh well. I mean, I suppose this is still lethal, but...
Because I mean, the flyer still gets through anyway.
I'd like to thank flyers. You know? Unfortunate.
That vampire deck doing its work.
Yeah, it's funny to think that a deck full of just some vampires is getting so much work done uh, in this content creator rumble. But I guess it shows the strength of numbers as a player. So that's 2-2 for the deck now, is it?
Yeah, I think
Or
so.
2-1?
Two and one. 2-1,
And,
1-1.
even, that loss was to mono blue, right? There's no other loss for the deck. And so even that was sort of decided by just the timing of a moment of craving cast, and could have easily gone in that deck's favor as well. Really impressive to see how it's kind of just doing its thing. Sanctum Seeker, just incredible. All right, the content creator rumbles on here.
It does. The next matchup is going to be Manadorks versus Stitch Flemons. Stitch Flemons.
Stitch Flammens.
I'm never going to be able to say your name right. I'm so sorry.
Is it Stitch or Stick? Like
Stitch. So Stich. Stitch. Stitch.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm never. Yeah, might have to give up on saying those names unless people enjoy watching us and listening to us humiliate ourselves. But the deck was pretty strong when we saw it last, so wonder how they'll go here against the Defenders deck. Another very aggressive versus very defensive matchup. Maybe the Defenders deck will get to a bit more play.
Hopefully, I want to see this deck go off like a frog in a sock.
All right. Revitalize is like a pretty cool cantrip for the deck to play, acknowledging that like you're probably not going to you're going to like block up the ground pretty fast, so you just need to knock die to burn, and red being very prominent in the meta.
Absolutely, it's a good buffer against a lot of decks, but especially against the red burn decks. There's that light up the stage. That stage is very extremely lit. I almost felt like I was about to say, like the kids say, it was lit. But I'm happy I didn't make that lame-ass joke.
Yeah, thank God you didn't, otherwise we would have all had to hear you make it and suffered together. Bang, bang. Red deck doing red deck things.
Yeah, and red deck's gross.
I guess Sorry.
I saw somebody calling for the banning of Light Up the Stage, and I'm like, that's not even remotely the problem. The deck is just very good.
I saw some people saying that sort of thing, like half satirically, more to protest the banning of Nexus of Fate in Best of One. As just sort of the rationale from Wizards. I think their explanation was fine, as we see Arcades, the strategist, come down.
Personally, I think I would have liked to have seen Nexus of Fate banned in all formats when it comes to Standard.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue that point one way or the other. I haven't suffered so much from it to feel very strongly, and I'm not certain that either side is completely wrong. Like Boring Fence Sitter Man. Oh wow, look at this, the removal spell combo coming out on Arcades. That's unfortunate, but yeah, so I say that some people definitely took Wizards' explanation of the decision as we are banning Nexus of Fate because people do not enjoy playing against it. Because there is that rationale of is this deck fun to play against?
Well, that's it. Like when Wizards ban something, there's a couple of things I need to look at. The first one is it fun to play against? Yes, no. The second thing is it fun to watch the deck work? Yes, no. Especially now in the age of esports and streaming.
Yeah.
Their main concern has to be online.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to sit in a game for an hour where somebody's looping Nexus of Fate over and over, that's not fun. People don't want to watch that. I don't want to see that at a Pro Tour. I don't want to see that at a GP coverage. I don't want to see that at Mythic Invitational Championship. That just screams to me the most boring match ever. And it just wastes everybody's time.
I mean, to me, it's not that much difference in experience to playing against just draw, go, control.
Yeah, pretty much.
Those matches can always just drag out. They only have a very few win cons. If you can, you're incentivized to fight them over their Teferis and stuff, but really you're 90% likely to just be prolonging the inevitable where they eventually beat you. And the next to the Fate deck just seems similar, except you're allowed to F6.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
So-
why Wizards were for such a long time trying to stray very much away from the draw go archetype, because it was just it's just I draw a card, go. You want to play that? I say no. I draw a card, go. And you know that no one wants to watch that. We've had enough of those decks in the history of Magic.
People really want to play those decks. People love playing those decks, and I think that Addendum is like a nice middle ground. It's a nice solution. We're going to see spend Lightning Bolt on the face. Yeah, fair enough. You're going to save a good game, but the 2 cards in hand are mountains.
Don't concede
So you
that
get another
game.
turn, yeah.
Ooh, but drawing
my
nothing is painful.
Goodness.
This deck
So
has just been drawing lands.
This is going to hit.
No, don't hit the concede. No! Next draw could have been better.
Technically weren't dead. It could have been revitalized into Arcades.
It's Flamin's taking it out with
Never give up.
Never give up. Never surrender. Make
Never
them play.
surrender. Dude.
Unfortunately, Manadoc's just not getting there.
Yeah, that was a pretty concede prompting draw. I would have been a little frustrated as well. I can't lie.
Okay, so the next one we have up is going to be Orcs Head Jordan versus Douches. And it looks like we are almost ready to go with that one. It's been flying hard and fast, which is great.
Yeah, lots of people bringing these nice red aggro decks to keep the match times down. It's fantastic. Just plowing through the Rumble.
I didn't even think that we would get done this quickly. Like, I thought that we would be here till about 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah, well, I also want to give a shout out to our great competitors and production team for getting these matches, together and on stream as quickly as possible. I have seen and commentated on far larger tournaments or far higher stakes tournaments that had a harder time making sure everyone was actually in the match. So we're really just rolling through them today. It's been great.
And of course, thank you very much to Caitlin/Silasary for being a great production person on all of the stuff that I know I do with her, including this, which has been great. And of course, thank you very much to you, Bard, because you're amazing.
No problem. Thanks, Chesh. It's a pleasure to be on the stream doing this. Obviously, casting MTG is where I want to be, so looking forward to this and other opportunities in future.
And of course, the last round for today comes down to Mono Blue versus Mono Red.
Orcs Head Magic against Douches. Oh, there we go. We see it in hand. There it is. Oof. Another controversial card, Goblin Gathering. That's going to evade the Essence Capture in hand. The real question, of course, being, will we be able to see the promised payoff of Goblin Gatherings 2, 3, and 4? Maybe if we go with the card draw outfit for card draw option from Risk Factor.
Are we going to be charting a course? We are charting a course.
Charting a course for success. Those are good draws. Yeah, play out that Storm Tamer. I love that card. I think it's a really cool design.
Just so good.
Okay.
See those Gobbo tokens.
Yeah, exactly. They're cool looking. I like them.
It's a curious obsession. I'm not sure personally if putting it maybe on the
attack with Biomancer. Go threaten the adapt.
Push it in.
Threaten the adapt.
No.
Oh well.
I think that curious obsession, I probably would have put that on the Biomancer, because then the Biomancer can adapt as well, right? So, I mean, it becomes a 3/3. There's no way that your opponent can block it on 2 of their creatures and kill it. Like, you're
I
not going to
think,
draw the card, that's fine, but...
yeah, I think the argument also is to not put it on the Storm Tamer, so then you can sacrifice the Storm Tamer to protect your card. But I suppose at this point the idea is that you want to hit him with Storm Tamer because it's a flyer, and you have Wizard's Retort in hand to protect it from this spell.
Oof.
Womp womp. Counterspell,
No.
baby. 2 untapped islands, representing the best thing they can represent.
Yeah, a way to say no to everything.
Terramander, quick adapt count, 3 in yard. Terramancer, 5 to adapt. Still not good enough. Try again next time. But we can certainly push in some flying damage, draw a card. And yeah, this blue deck showing why it's a tournament-winning standard deck right now. That's an island, so...
We're just not seeing the explosive moments from Douche's deck that we... from Org's Head's deck that we were seeing last time.
Yeah, this is, I guess, the lesser side of the Cavalcade lists when you don't draw. It's sort of like a tribal deck, in a way, and that you're... in standards, I guess baseline is you're playing these mid-range decks that are just piles of all of the best cards, and then the further away you stray from that in favor of building around a particular strategy, the more you are hinging yourself on being able to find like the key cards from that strategy and keep them in play. I like Cavalcade a little bit better because it's an enchantment and harder to interact with outside of Mortify decks, but at least we're drawing into it now. That's going to look good on this turn even. Whoa. Huh.
Well, that went south quick.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by that Banefire. I would have... If you play the Cavalcade there, you get a free point of damage. I guess it's important to stop the Terramander adapting, but... I suppose it does reduce the clock a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Not a whole heap, though.
It's sort of like, I guess I would have anticipated that you could have saved the Terramander by sacrificing the Siren Storm Tamer. Yeah, look, it was probably correct for Orc's Head to do that. It just means that there were no really great options. There's a really strong draw from Dugas, and having just the right counter magic, right interaction at the right times to handle this deck. Even the Clamor Shaman not going to get there. The douche is still sitting pretty on 20 life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool include, though. Does make me really wonder whether like Goblin Trash Master is in the deck.
Here goes that capture.
Yeah.
That's some nice interaction I didn't even think of. Putting the +1/+1 counter on the Biomancer just to draw a card.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's a pity that that's sort of like the only +1/+1 counter synergy you have in the deck, but it's cool to have. Certainly.
It's another Merfolk Twister. I think this game is done.
Yeah, it's a really impressive showing from Dugas, showing why this build of the mono blue deck was his weapon of choice for today. Gets the job done against Orc's Head Magic. I don't think we saw that blue. Did we see the blue deck lose?
No, the Douche's deck just went 3-0 basically. Just smashed it through. So I might drag Douches in here for a quick chat.
Yeah, why not?
Again, it's the draws, not the skill.
Yoink.
Let's be clear.
Douches, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
I was talking before, it's better to be lucky than good, but it's even better to have a good deck because that's like being lucky.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I tried to build... I found a deck that didn't play like the sort of structured 5-0 league decks that played a few different creatures, which is cool, but you can definitely hear the strengths of the deck are definitely there in the core of what doesn't change.
Yeah, but I'm going to go ahead and focus on the cards that you did include that are a bit more fringe there. The Benthic Biomancer definitely didn't make the deck weaker. It looked really good there in the last match.
Yeah, definitely, especially the ability to loot. I mean, the deck can really work on 3 or 4 lands total, which is good. So it's nice to have outs of being able to discard extra instant or sorceries. You can also discard instant or sorceries to be able to make the Paramander a 5/5 quicker if you can't cast them all at the same time, which is cool.
Yeah, I saw it was really important in that last game to have the adapt as well. There was an opportunity to, like, obviously it didn't quite work out that way, but just having the ability to threaten and make one of your creatures into a 2/2 was almost as good as having the unblockability from Mistcloak Herald, which is, I assume, what it's replacing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm never sure when to play around Shock. So there's a few times where I'm like, I'll just pass. We'll see what happens.
One other thing I want to talk about just in that... Oh, sorry, Chesh, go ahead.
Oh, no, we're probably about to discuss the same thing. I'll let you go.
I was going to say, in that last match, there was one really kind of cool decision point where you had Curious Obsession, which is, of course, like the heart and soul of this deck, and made the choice to jam it on Siren Storm Tamer over your other creatures. And it made sense because that was your only flyer at the time, but it's also like you're giving up the ability to use the Storm Tamer as an extra counter spell or piece of interaction to protect your Curious Obsession.
Definitely. Yeah, it's quite awkward. I think the only time that I would sack the Siren there would be to probably protect a Djinn, just because it's bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is always awkward that you put it on a creature that is most likely going to be used for its activated ability.
It's funny because I've played the Mono Shooters deck quite a lot in BO1, and I've had the same issue where sometimes you just have to throw the Curious Obsession on the flyer just to draw those extra cards to try and pad your hand, especially against Mono Red. But it's a point where I'm always worried because I know at some point it's either going to get bolted out of the sky or I'm going to have to sack it to try and counter something.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was very, very lucky that my opponent there didn't have any early removal for my creatures, or at least be able to hold it up in response to me equipping the Obsession.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Then, yeah, I guess Flyers and X4s line up really good against 1/1s.
Well, congratulations. You took it out today. You didn't lose a single game.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it felt pretty good. It's always nice playing Arena. As an MTGO player, it's definitely a lot smoother, for sure.
Yeah, we were commenting before on how much Arena just looks superior to, to the old MS-DOS base machine-coded crappy MTGO system.
Yeah, definitely. Even the playability of the software itself, I'm not a standard fan or a draft fan, but when I installed Arena, I couldn't get enough of playing on this.
Mm-hmm. Now, there is one thing I want to cover. How do we actually say your creator name?
Dukes on Twitch.
Right, because I always call you douches.
Yeah.
And I think that sounds very close to douche, and I want to kind of not do that.
No, that's more than fine. I'm sure there's some people that might call me douche on Twitch, but yeah, I'm sure it's a lot simpler if I put it if you change the U to an O, so it's like Dukes.
Dukes, yeah.
Because even a lot of Americans say Dougs on Twitch.
Yeah, that's what I actually thought you were, Dugs.
Yeah.
Duggies.
Yep.
Duggies on Twitch.
It's close to doggies.
It's very Australian.
Yeah,
Dougie.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, big Doggies fan. I'm not actually. Go the Roosters.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. One thing that I've actually found since Arena, a lot of the leagues on MTGO, you have to wait quite a while to find a match. Which I'm not too sure if it's people actually dropping Legacy and other Eternal formats for Arena, but more so people trying it out. And then you're just in that sort of weird transformation time where there's a lot of players not playing on MTGO. Like I had a mate who played a challenge the other day, and he had 9 minutes waiting for an opponent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, look, if it's anything like me, I've completely dropped MTGO. When I write, I sometimes get paid in MTGO credits and tickets.
That's cool.
And I just cash out straight away now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Arena is just so much more accessible, and it looks prettier. And Best of One is a big pull for me as well, because I don't always have... I mean, obviously, I think everyone knows how much stuff that I do behind the scenes on different projects, so I don't really have a lot of time to myself. I'm always doing content for myself or helping other people and stuff, so
yeah, definitely.
I think that was a big draw for me.
Yeah, it's awesome to be able to come home from work, play a few matches, and then go do something else is awesome, not have to be tied up in a sort of a best of three.
Yeah.
Especially if you come up against a match that you're not too happy about, it's nice to kind of get it over and done with and then go to a new match.
Well, I just want to say thanks to everyone who participated in the Content Creator Rumble. Of course, thank you to WanderingBard, who you should all go and follow.
Yes,
congratulations.
I should just say...
And thanks, Silasary, for being our production assistant.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. This is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, and everyone should keep an eye out. Obviously, this was a first run, a bit of a pilot, so we're happy to celebrate and have an inaugural champion in Doug's, but definitely planning on doing this again soon. All went relatively smoothly once we got it set up. Hopefully next time we can do it bigger and better. So feel free to throw your hat in the ring, and if not, definitely give us a follow and make sure you are tuned in next time.
Absolutely. And we'll catch you all later.
Thank you very much.